What do you envision the sheriff's office to look like in the next 5 to 10 years?
I would like to see it be way different than it is, and a stronger priority. One of the things that I discovered years ago was an ordinance that was passed by the county Board of Commissioners that basically took away the sheriff's department. It took the title and the responsibilities away and gave them to the chair, and then it created a public safety office, and it gave the director of that the title of sheriff. And it looked to me like it was a huge power grab. I have always had the opinion that the highest authority elected official in the county should be the sheriff. He's got the right to say yes or no to feds coming into our state or county or whatever the case is, for whatever reason. Then Brandon turned me on to Resolution A. I don't know if you're all familiar with that. In March, it's in the questionnaire and I answered that. Very eye-opening. It looks to me like, once again, things are happening at the county commission level that are taking away the strength of the county sheriff's office. I don't agree with that. It's just wrong. I don't know, I mean, I could talk for a long time on that, but anytime that bureaucrats or politicians come in and think that they can do a better job of running the trained law enforcement officers, I disagree with it. I would prefer to see things go back to a stronger sheriff's office rather than the commission chair. Does that answer it?
Somewhat. Maybe you could come up with some specifics of things you would do to enhance our office, I guess. And we've had an issue with the law enforcement branch, which I represent, and the corrections side, which seems to overlap sometimes into one another as far as funding and allocation of resources. I'd just like to know what kind of things you would specifically maybe do to make us strong and not have to fight budget constraints year after year after year and worry about our members being laid off or losing their jobs.
Well, first of all, I'm going to listen to everything that you or anybody else has to say one-on-one or small groups or whatever you want to tell me exactly what you think the needs are. I don't have all the answers, especially to specific details. I will tell you, once again, I have always considered public safety to be number one. If we're going to slash services, that is the absolute last place I would ever allow it. And then it would not be pulling officers off the street. I would be more inclined to look at maybe somebody with less training to go and take burglary reports, or a year ago I did a drive around with a deputy named Mac, and we did a bunch of bang and hangs of eviction notices. Seems to me that maybe there's some things of that nature that could be given to somebody else and keep the officers on the street doing other things besides taping pieces of paper on doors. But I don't have any specific answers. It's something I'd have to learn about, and I'd seek that information from you. But you have my word. I will always stand behind law enforcement as always number one. Thank you.
You mentioned that you like to identify what's broken and try to fix it. As a county commissioner, what would you see as the most broken things that you would have any influence over fixing? And how would you go about doing that?
As far as being one of 4 commissioners plus a chair, I don't know how much influence I would have. I can tell you right now, I would immediately be butting heads with Chair Wheeler because he and I see completely different about control of the sheriff's office. Can I fight him? I don't know. Would I try? Yes. Did that cover it?
You know, Ken, in that Citizens Academy, we have some defensive tactics courses too that might come in handy if you gain their
Keep me safe from the chair if I butt heads.
Looking at the current county budget, where would you get funds from if you had to pick to put into law enforcement if the levy doesn't pass? What would you cut?
I would probably look at things that are,
Or the Gresham, I know we're talking about Gresham, but Gresham levy, not the county.
I would tend to take a real hard look at social services first. I believe in a hand up, not a handout. I know there's lots of abuses. There are some specific cases where somebody's in desperate need of something on a temporary basis to get back on their feet. But the welfare mentality status of so many people is unacceptable. It's not sustainable. You can't just have people that are lazy and hold their hand out and expect the government to be there all providing God and not take responsibility for themselves. And so I think that's an area that needs to be looked at. I'm not against helping people on a short-term basis, but I think there's probably got to be a lot of waste there. Often a lot of those same people are the same ones that you guys are going out and arresting for various crimes, and part of feeling better about themselves, staying away from crime, is getting a hand up instead of a handout. And so I think we're looking at that whole area incorrectly. We don't need to be the big providers of everything that keeps people in that position. We need to get them straightened out. So that would be the first place I would look.
I have a two-part question about development in East County. The first is, what type of development do you think would be most beneficial to East County from a tax standpoint? And the second is, are there any certain types of development you would stress or you would try to avoid so as not to further negatively impact the public safety situation in East County, specifically talking about things like low-income housing, transit-related things, those sorts of things? And what would you do as a commissioner to try to focus East County development to be as beneficial as possible?
Well, the highest taxpayers are going to be commercial and industrial development. That seems to be one area that has not been farmed out to foreign countries like phone services or tech support. So it's kind of eliminating some of the lesser high dollar jobs by itself in that manner. As far as high density housing and creating crime zones of low income people, that's pretty much mandated by Metro. I know in Fairview we've already surpassed our goal, or Metro's goal, of high density housing, affordable housing, all the other names that you want to call them, but basically I don't know how much control the county has over that. Metro seems to be taking charge. I can tell all you guys right now, just for the record, I've said it before and on TV, I'm not a big fan of Metro. I don't like what they've done with high density housing. I don't like what Portland has done with the Housing Authority of Portland bringing out here into our end of town low income and subsidized apartments. In Fairview, we spend 30% of our police time chasing down high density apartments and low income apartments, subsidized apartments. That's where all the time is being spent. And we have had to go and get money to help us cover that, and they hand it to us because they know they're right. I'm not in favor of that kind of thing, but we get stuck with it.